If you're trying to figure out how to create your program structure to create your signature coaching program and or other type of service, then stay tuned, because in this video, I'm going to walk you through the fundamentals of building out your signature coaching program that is built not only to sell, but also to scale. So let's dive in. Hey, my name is Soph. If this is your first time tuning into my channel, welcome. Be sure you hit the like and subscribe button down below so that you can get notified whenever future videos come out. On this channel, we talk all things SEO, online business, and automation. So in today's video, we're going to cover a few important components when it comes to structuring your signature coaching program. Now, to go along with this video, there is a full blog and actual coaching program template for free available to you on my site. Make sure you go to sophiekessner.com/blog and you'll be able to find the exact template there. Let's go ahead and dive on in. If you're watching this video, my assumption is that you already have a few things clear. Number one, you know who your ideal client is. Number two, you know what it is that you do and the service that you provide. And number three, you've gotten people results. If that's the case, then you are ready to dive into creating your actual signature program. If for whatever reason, none of these things or one of these things is not true, then some of the advice that I'm going to be going through inside of this video may not apply to you. And if that is the case, then please be sure to go back and watch previous episodes and our future episodes that are more relevant to where you are in your specific process. All right, let's get it. You need to understand, first off, who it is that you're supporting and where they're starting from and where they're wanting to go. The best programs and businesses and services are those that solve problems. And so you have to get really, really clear on what is the outcome, the desired outcome that your ideal client wants to achieve, and how is it that they want to get there. So in order to do this, you need to be really clear on not just what the objective is, but more importantly, what the starting point is. An analogy that I like to use a lot is looking at somebody who's wanting to use weight loss as the end goal. Depending on the type of marketing that you're doing and the type of person that you're working with, the process is going to be different. An example of this is if you're working with somebody who has a history of binge eating or doing bodybuilding competitions or bikini competitions and has had a lot of challenges with yo-yo dieting, their process to gaining and are losing weight and gaining more of a sense of homeostasis within their body and their metabolism is a very different process than somebody who has never done any type of crash dieting or competitions and just wants to lose weight maybe after having a baby for the first time. This is why understanding not just the outcome or the objective, which may in fact be pretty broad, but more importantly, understanding who you're starting with. Because the who you're starting with is what's going to dictate the process that you take them through. The first thing that I'm going to invite you to do is, if you know who your ideal client is, and you know where they want to go, what the outcome is, and you know how to get them results, what is the kind of result and process that you feel not only confident, but competent, you are qualified to support them? Are you the most qualified to support women who are postpartum? Are you most qualified to support athletes who've been training for a long period of time? What is the type of person and process that you have the most experience and expertise in being able to support? When you've identified that, the next thing we want to do is actually reverse engineer. When we're reverse engineering, you want to look at this as not just what you think is going to work best, but what the actual data shows. If you're on this channel and you've spent some time with me at all, you'll probably know already that I'm a very data-driven person, as much as I am somebody who also really likes to dive into feelings and emotions. But we have to look at what the data says. We want to look not just at businesses in the industry and other companies that are doing well, but what we also want to look at is getting clear on who is it that we're actually working with and getting direct feedback from them. Anytime that we're creating a program or a process or a method or a philosophy or whatever it is that we're building, we want to have the idea of what we think we're going to be creating, which is reverse engineering the end goal based on where they're starting from and breaking it down. What do they need to know? What happens here? What happens before that? What has to happen before that? What is the necessary process that they must go through in order to get from where they are to where they want to be? And then we test it. The first time we do anything, it's always going to be an experiment and a test. And you have to look at it through this lens. Otherwise, you're going to continue to feel frustrated and second guess and doubt when you don't have the answers right away and you don't have certainty. Because the reality is you won't. You just won't. Until you do it, you won't know how it's done. So let's look and get clear on, okay, what worked for you? What worked for the clients you worked with? What worked for other clients and other types of programs? Use that information to help you better understand the best process possible, and then provide yourself with your own information, your own perspective, your own viewpoint on what your expertise tells you you should be doing. Then, when you have that process laid out, what you think those steps are in that sequential order, what we want to dive into is, what's the time frame? How long do we suspect that somebody is going to need, based off of where they're starting and based on where they want to go, to actually start to achieve that result, to start to overcome that obstacle, to start to reach that goal? Now, my recommendation for this might be a little different than what you hear in a lot of different programs or folks or narratives. And I actually believe that we want to give people more time than necessary so that they can achieve the result earlier on versus less time and having them feel like they're rushed and they're behind. Now, this is not what you have to do. It's just my own personal belief about business and clients and helping them achieve outcomes, because one of our core values is sustainability and equity. And we want to make sure that clients aren't just investing a large amount of money into something and not actually having the time necessary, depending on their circumstances, to get through all of the content or material or process. So if you think that somebody really needs 6 months to start seeing amazing results, make it a 6-month program. If you feel like they really only need 3 months, then make it a 3-month program. If it's somewhere in between, make it somewhere in between. If it's something where you feel like they want to continue to come back for lifetime access, there's no wrong answer here. You can make any of these versions and timeframes work and be an incredibly successful business. But the biggest thing is you understanding your ideal client, understanding where it is they want to go, and understanding what the process is to get them there. When you have the time frame down and you have the process down, the next thing is going to be the deliverables. Now, when we're talking about deliverables, what we're thinking about are things like PDFs that they might get, access to you that they might get, Q&A calls, coaching calls, group calls, Slack support, email support, video recordings, all of the pieces that go into both educating, informing, empowering, and supporting the client in achieving a specific result. Depending on what you do, what your niche is, what your industry is, what your service is, all of this is going to look a little different. So what you have to get clear on and what you have to test is what actually is going to work best. And my invitation is to always start with less and add more as you go, because we want to keep this as simple and easy to execute as possible. The more things that we add in, the more complicated it gets, the harder it's going to be for clients to implement and use everything and feel like they're making the most out of it. Your goal is to create the simplest possible program on the market that gets the best result in the least amount of time. And the way that you do that is by continuing to refine and refine and refine. This does not mean you're adding more and more and more to it. It means you're consistently looking at how can we make this simpler? How can we make this easier? How can we make this better for the client to get the results? And the only way that you're going to get that information is by testing it, is by having people go through it. So figure out the core pieces that I look at here is typically we want some form of coaching if you are a coach or if you are some form of service provider where there is a interactive component of you with a client, either in a one-on-one setting, a group setting, a one-to-many setting, through messages, through Zoom, through phone, in person, whatever that looks like for you. And then another component is the support in between. Is it email? Is it ideally not texting? Is it some form of boundary that you have around where they can contact you, how they can contact you, what that looks like? And then is there a community component? May or may not be appropriate depending on what you're doing. Are there things that you can create, whether they're workbooks, PDFs, resources, templates, to help the client in that process so you're not having to spend all of your time diving into it on a call with them, but instead they get it on their own time. If you're earlier on in your career, some of these things may not be available to you yet. That's fine, you'll get there. But if you've been doing what you've been doing for a while, you likely have an entire library of resources that you're not even aware of that you can use to support clients and speed up the process. Now that you have your deliverables, you have the length of your program, and you have what your program process or philosophy or methodology is, the final piece of this is going to be figuring out your pricing. I'm not going to have enough time in this video, unfortunately, to get into pricing details, so be sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. If you enjoyed the content that we went into here, please hit like. It really means the world to us. And also, if you can check out the blog down below, you'll get more details on pieces regarding the actual template structure, so you can see this in action, but you can also get an idea of what this could potentially look like for you. In the next video, we'll go into how to actually equitably price your offers, so be sure you stay tuned, and I will see you there.